want to thank you, Suzanne, and also Doreen for having this speaker series going, because I know how much effort you put into that, and I've been here many times, being in the public, and have listened to a couple of those offerings, and I always enjoyed them. So thank you for that. And thank you for all of you for coming out here. It's nice. I see some familiar faces in the audience. That's really good. And I see some new faces in the audience, and that is exciting too. So again, thank you all for coming. When I started to coach couples and individuals over 10 years ago, I had no idea that I will end up calling my business Embrace Conflicts, and that I will specialize in this arena. But it's a very complex subject, conflicts, and a very fascinating subject at the same time. So I've been on that journey now since quite a while, and I'm enjoying it. And there is still lots for me to learn too. So, and sometimes I'm in the same boat like you are. I make mistakes. I end up in the destructive power of conflicts. I came up with these two terms, destructive power of conflicts and the healing power of conflicts. So I will talk very soon more about that. What I would like to know from you is, could you give me a hint or an idea, or what motivated you to come out to this talk tonight? I think it will help me to maybe even be able to do a better talk if I know what your motivation is to come out tonight.
Yeah. Well, for me, I've found in the relationships I've been in the past, they go through these phases, you know. Falling in love is one part of the phase, and then there's like the falling out of love, but if you don't stick with it, you never get back into the togetherness of the relationship, and too many times the relationships get into conflict, don't know how to deal with it, and they just fall apart.
That's very true what you're saying. So you would like to make a different experience, I assume. Okay. Others? Yeah.
To be better able to mine the riches of conflict.
To mine the richness of. Oh, we're on the same team then. Very much. Yeah. Yeah, Diane.
How to, when you see that you have a need that's not being met, how to make requests in a way that doesn't trigger the other person to think you're accusing them or something?
Not always the easiest. It sounds easy, but it can be very difficult to do. But I hopefully, if I forget, can you come back to that? Yeah.
Kind of how to learn how to put the brakes on so you're not so reactive in the situation.
Yeah.
When you must react.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're in the right talk tonight for that. My question was, what is your motivation for coming tonight? What attracted you to come to this talk? Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was so inspired by the last workshop that I did with you that really felt like I grew so much as a person, learning how to work with other people and in love and in anger, and really recognize that there's a lot of space. There's a lot of space for growth there. And so this is like a way to elaborate that and continue to make myself a better person.
What I find interesting that most of the individuals or couples who come and see me, they have three things in common. They have conflicts in their lives. They're not very happy with how they're handling them. They are uncomfortable with them. And second, they have good reasons to feel like that. And third, they're all longing, or they have a longing for more connection and intimacy. That seems to go through all of the people I see, or people who also come into my Explore shops. I think there is this longing and this desire for that. As I said, conflicts have the power to divide us, and conflicts have the power to bring us closer together. They can turn us into adversaries, or they can provide us with an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, about the person we are with, to practice empathy, and to grow as an individual. And from there, it's almost like a side effect that there will be more connection and intimacy. When you would ask me, do you like conflicts? I have to say, no, not really. I am just less afraid of them. I have more experience with them, and I know that I can benefit from them. I came up with a perspective for myself that I would like to share with you, and it hopefully helps you as well. I look at conflicts as a signal that something wants to be looked at or needs to be looked at more in depth. Like when I come from this perspective, I'm not stressed out about it anymore. I feel like, it's more like, I wonder what's going on. So I come from a place, or this perspective allows me to come from a place of being curious, of trying to want to know what's going on. I would like from you to know how many of you are also uncomfortable with conflicts, or would prefer to avoid them sometimes. When we are trapped or captured by the power of destruction of conflicts, then when we are trying to express our frustration or our need, all of a sudden we end up being in an argument. And there it's all about, you always did, you never do, and ba 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 ba, and we get really fired up, and we feel like we have to stand up for ourselves, and then all of a sudden there is blame, there is criticism, there is shame, and there is a lot of righteousness in this space and judgment. And later on also hurt feelings. Can you relate to that? Yeah. Yeah, that's when you're feeling like that, you know now, or you could know now, you're in the arena of the destructive power of conflicts. And it does make us feel uncomfortable. It's normal. I would like to do an experiment with you right now. I will ask you to think about a conflict that is fairly significant, because there are conflicts that are not so significant, and I would recommend you to just drop them. But there are conflicts that you really want to address, because if you do not address conflicts, there is a tendency that we can build up resentments. Also, we can get into a feeling of hopelessness. It's like we are giving up on our partner, we are giving up on our relationship, and some people can even get depressed. Not addressing important conflicts, I would also call that's in the arena of the destructive power of conflicts. But now I want to I want to do that experiment with you. I will ask you to look at a conflict that you remember was significant, and instead of telling the story, what happened, who said what, and all that, I will invite you to tell the story from the point of your feelings. I will not just throw you cold in the water. I will start with one of my conflicts and tell you the story of the level of my feelings. So first, I was shocked. Then I got angry. Then I became defensive. And I became defensive and more defensive. And at some point I realized, oh my goodness, this doesn't go anywhere. So I hung up. And I was left afterwards. I felt really sad. I felt helpless. I felt unappreciated. So I would like you to, if you dare, and I hope you do, to turn to your neighbor and tell your conflict just on the level of feelings. And your neighbor might be able to help you if you get into the storytelling. Just say, no, just how you felt. And after that, I will ask you what feelings you encountered, and I will ask Suzanne to protocol. Do you have any questions for this experiment? Okay. Are you?
But we're doing just like you did, where you said you felt.
Yeah. Like you remember the conflict, you remember also the details, but then go on into the level of how did it make you feel? What kind of feelings came up in you during the conflict and also right after the conflict? After the conflict, sorry. Okay? Are you up for it? Go. Okay, I would like to find an end. And I hope, how was it? Was it difficult to tell the story just from a point of view of your feelings, or was that okay? Hard? Yeah. Well, you hung in there. Thank you so much. So I'm really curious what you experienced, what feelings came up in you. So who wants to share? So if you are open to share, yeah.
I felt manipulated.
Manipulated? Fear? Anger? Confused? Devalued? Yeah. Frustrated? You were shocked as well? Uh-huh. Like, whew, yeah. Others?
Somebody coming at me.
Oh, it's a new word for me. Badgered. Oh, okay. Okay, I get. Okay, I get it. Thank you. Badgered. Okay. Bitter, even. Wow. Yeah. Attacked. You might put helpless on it. That was one of my very unpleasant feelings. Yeah. Broken-hearted, even. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I felt young because I kind of didn't know where to go. I mean, I knew that there was an issue there, but I didn't know what to do with it, so I felt very young. You know, I just felt like, like I wanted to do the next step, but I didn't know where it was.
Uh-huh. Young, inexperienced. Uh-huh. Or clumsy on that level. Okay. I don't want to put words in your feelings, it's just, yeah. Unappreciated. Mm-hmm. Challenged, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Challenged to deal with it and not to own the projections.
Misunderstood, yeah. Resigned, even. Discounted. So when we look at this list, those are all difficult feelings to be with. Like, who likes to feel manipulated? Who likes to feel confused, unappreciated, misunderstood, all these. And that's why I also say, as soon as we have conflicts, we enter vulnerable territory, whether we like it or not. It's a fact. And I actually came up with a model that I want to test it out with you. You're the very first, because I came up with it while I was preparing this talk, where I felt like, I need to find a way so I can explain everything I want to share with you tonight. And it's actually only some fundamental findings and learnings that I had with conflict. So I will not be able to share everything I know with you. So I hope I try to pick really fundamental stuff. So as you see, this is the layer of where our vulnerable feelings sit. When we start to be in touch with that and have the courage to share from there, we need trust. This is what we usually, maybe it would have been better to start up here, but anyway. So what we show the world, that's our outside, the most outside layer. Then underneath sits often anger and frustration, and that's complaints. That's where we start to. And here are we entering our vulnerable feelings like that. And underneath those vulnerable feelings, there is always a need, or a dream, or a hope, or a longing. And this down here, I think, is the place of our core values. And again, I just came up with that while I was preparing that talk, so I'm still testing my model. When we start to share a need or something that has not been met, and we are usually not aware of it, we feel frustrated, we feel angry, and then we start to bitch, we start to complain, so we attack, and then the other one goes so, and then we do a thicker skin here, we need to protect ourselves. And then we are completely taken by this energy. And some people, they actually like it because it gives them a sense of power. But most of the time, that power also fades away, and also those people start to feel actually sad. They feel the disconnection. It can get very lonely out there. It's also the place where you feel like, I'm right, you're wrong, how dare you? All these things. So the results is always a division and disconnection. We don't feel the connection anymore. So when we go a level deeper into our vulnerable feelings, that's where it takes guts. I say it's always an act of great courage to show up vulnerable, to share vulnerable feelings with each other. And we have good reasons for that. The generation of elder people in this room, and even into my generation, our parents, they were good at talking us out of our vulnerable feelings. We got the message they're not really okay, like shut up and look front, or don't be a whiny and don't do all these things. There was not much understanding for children and their vulnerable feelings. And I'm not going to make anybody wrong for doing that. They just got it down from their parents. So I would say it's maybe this generation or our generation now at the times we are in that allows us more to be in touch with that. But when we want to share vulnerable feelings, we need to know that we're not going to be ridiculed, we're not going to be shamed, and the other person is not going to take advantage of our vulnerability. Because if we don't have a sense for that, why should we show up vulnerable? It really doesn't make any sense. And sometimes it's also a practice. I say, practicing, feeling, being in touch with your vulnerability and sharing from there is like a muscle. We go to the gym, we train our muscles. We can also train ourselves to be in touch with our vulnerability. And we can, if we have friends or a partner that we have some trust, we can at least start there. Yeah. So I can only encourage you to do that. So like a possible need, like, yeah, as I said, when we go a step lower, a possible need could be that we want to be heard. It can be that simple. We just want to be heard. We just want to be seen. Maybe we would like to be appreciated for something. And if that need is not met, it creeps up here and we get frustrated. And then we communicate from our place of frustration. But if we learn, or if we have the guts to hang out down here and share from here, then we are stepping. That's the first step into the healing power of conflicts. And it's a place where it's softer. We are softer. Like, we don't need this thick skin anymore. And as I said, that's also the place where we can stay connected and where we can deepen our connection and where intimacy actually will be a byproduct. So do you have any questions so far? And I'm really curious, does that model make sense?
It's interesting, what I'm looking at there, it's, first of all, the thought is, number one, why didn't we learn this in school? This is something that's never taught, and it's basic. And a lot of parents, they either don't talk to each other or you're told you're the child, not. The other thing is that it's pretty interesting that you're giving this class right now, because if we really look at what's going on in the whole world, and what this chart made me think of was looking the Saturday morning after the inauguration, the women marching, they were on a stage, and they were showing the world, they were telling about their anger and frustration, and they were actually putting out their vulnerable feelings, and it was beautiful.
What came to my mind, because you said, are you going to talk about politics? And I said, no, I'm not going to talk about politics. But I said, maybe from what I'm sharing, you can take something away that will help you in the bigger arena. And I think that, at least in my case, Trump is crushing on my core values. He's trampling on them, actually. And doing the profession I'm doing, I know that, yeah, this is a good place to be, but it's not a place to get stuck. I want you to know there is nothing wrong. I'm not going to say, oh, you shouldn't go there. That can have a vital role to feel the anger and to express it, but don't get stuck here, because when you get stuck there, you poison yourself. It will have a negative effect on your personal health. And if you are stuck in that place in your personal relationships, it will have a significant impact on the quality of your relationship. So, yeah. Anything here?
Well, what if it was kind of dangerous for you to be vulnerable as a kid when you were growing up? One where it felt was a safe space.
Yeah, exactly. I say, everybody who has a hard time with those levels to be here and share from here, you have good reasons. So I don't want to say anything else. You have good reasons, But that happened to you in the past. So now you can take care of certain things in a different way, and maybe you have a friend who can be with you and hold the hand on your shoulder and say, it's okay. And sometimes I feel like that too, and then I just feel like I just have to take myself by my hand, or the little girl in me, who is just desperate right now. I have an image. I'm holding that little girl in me by the hand, and I say, we can do that. We are not there anymore. I'm 60 now. 60. No, I'm not always feeling like that, but I can say, I'm 60. I can take care of you right now. So, and yeah.
I don't try to talk myself out of my feelings.
No.
And I have asked for my needs. One of the things that's helped me to move beyond is the word mercy.
Say more about that.
Mercy. What I mean by that, a long time ago I learned that mercy to me translates, I'm doing the best that I can in a relationship. And he or she is doing the best that they can. It doesn't mean I have to like it, but if I can hold a merciful view of that or them, then I'm saying they're doing the best they can. He, she, my son, my wife, friend, you name it, they're doing the best that they can. I'm doing the best that I can. So mercy is almost like an umbrella that covers a multitude of sins, so to speak.
It also keeps you in the game. Because when we are in conflict, we have a tendency to turn away from each other instead of turning towards each other. And we have a tendency to, as I have said before, to experience each other as our enemies, as adversaries. And maybe mercy reminds you or helps you to realize, hey, we are actually here to help each other, and we are friends. We love each other. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So being of the generation, or as you kind of said, it's getting a little bit more in touch with the vulnerability component, and sort of maybe bringing that more towards the rest of the community. I grew up not wanting to be vulnerable. Vulnerable was really dangerous, and couldn't do it. It was I'm 12 years old. I couldn't be vulnerable, and I have felt so opened up after recognizing how much power there is in being vulnerable. Just it's such a great place to be. It's hard, and I oftentimes feel inexperienced and really confused as to what do I do? And I'm really appreciating that feeling of just being wow, I didn't even know the way that I felt. I had no idea how I felt. And it's really cool to recognize that these feelings that I was having of anger were actually a lot of hurt. And recognizing that they're so interchangeable, and then they can be so closely linked to being happy as well. And just really figuring out vulnerability, how to explore that space and how to flow in that space. And once I'm learning how to do that, and it's helping me to feel more happy.
You're actually mentioning something beautiful here, that vulnerability allows us to connect and allows us to stay connected. And from there's so much possible that is not possible in this place. Because in this place, nobody can win. This place produces only losers. But here, I think we have a chance to win, and both, or everyone, can win there.
Yeah. Empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
Will always help you move on.
Yeah. And I mean, we say them so easily, and sometimes they're just so hard. It's just so hard, yeah. Yeah.
Thinking, not knowing, so many times I think I know something and then I find out, oh, I didn't know where the other person was coming from. So that my umbrella, I think, is not knowing, and that sort of pokes a hole in the, that top armor of, well, maybe I don't really know what's going on here at all.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because that plays, if we can't, sometimes we go into interpretations because we don't know, but we think we know, and we interpret, and then we think we know exactly why that person did it. And unfortunately, we interpret most of the time, or at least I do, to my disadvantage. So later I realized, oh my gosh, I did that person wrong. That person came with good intentions, but I couldn't see it. I started to interpret, and I interpreted against me. So this is also something that happens often, and being able to stand under the umbrella of, I just don't know. Maybe I should ask. If you don't know, what do? You ask.
Do you find that when you start to be more vulnerable, that the other person tends to become more vulnerable too, or?
It doesn't work with everybody, honestly. And thank you for bringing that up, because there are conflicts that although we would love to work them out with the person involved, that is involved, it's impossible. Because there has to be a willingness from both sides. And if only one person is willing, it's not enough. But you can still work it out. You can work it out in yourself. And that's being in touch with, again, what kind of feelings come up in you. And what is actually your longing or your dream or your needs underneath. And even if you cannot fulfill those dreams with that person in the moment, just knowing about it, I find extremely helpful and empowering. I even say this is the place of true empowerment. And this is the place of a wrong sense of power. Yeah, it's sad that sometimes we just can't work it out with the person we would like to work it out, but it's a reality, something we have to make peace with. And who knows, maybe later on in life it's possible, maybe that person is just not ready at this moment. And maybe later on, or it's not important for you anymore because you were able to heal in yourself around this conflict. And so you don't need to work it out with that person. And I have experienced something with my brother that I couldn't work it out with him. I was forced to work it out in myself. And because of that, the effect was that I could see him in a new light. He offered old bits I could jump on. I could call it the train of anger or the train of whatever, but I did not go there. I decided to try to have understanding. I ended up telling myself, oh, I think he's just stressed, he's overworked. And then I just approached him completely different. I approached him, as you said, with compassion and empathy. And boy, we have a total new dynamic. I mean, I don't know whether it lasts. I don't know where it will go, but it's very different.
I think you have to talk about trust more too, because I think you have to know on what levels you can trust someone. before I think you can open up to your vulnerability.
You can also start with little pieces. It's like putting the toe into the water. You don't jump into it right away. You can test, or you can, you can also say, I would like to dare more, to show up more vulnerable. But you can also say what you would need from the other person. And work. Shall we try? Are you open? And all that can happen is it's not working. But I would really encourage you to give it a shot. And also take your fear seriously, But don't get blocked, or that fear should not stay in your way to try at some point.
I have two thoughts. There's a saying in India that in the end everything will work out okay. In the end. And that kind of addresses down the road. We don't know how that conflict is going to resolve, but there is that saying in India that everything in the end will be okay.
Yeah.
The other aspect that links up with mercy is forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness covers a multitude of sins, and I can forgive. It doesn't mean I have to like what happened to me, but I can forgive. And then it changes the whole dynamic. And I can attest to having forgiven my father. It allowed me to minister to him when he was dying of cancer. And I would have never, ever thought that happened. And it was all inside work. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying I had to do all of that work to get to the point to forgive him, and then to be able to feed my father, change my father, and shave my father. So, wow, forgiveness covers a lot of territory.
So the gift of your forgiveness was that you got really close to your father. Yeah. I think the gift of forgiveness is also, in my experience, it sets me free. Because as long as I'm resentful, I'm still trapped in this cycle of negativity. And in a way, I give that person so much power over me. I think that's why I started to be interested in finding a new way, because I was so tired in giving my brother so much power over me. That motivated me to find a new way.
I'm just kind of curious what we all think about the idea of you get more of what you pay attention to.
What do you make out of it?
Well, it works for me. As a public school teacher for 33 years, and what I paid attention to, filled. It's good. But in a bigger plane, as human beings, as spiritual people, we get more out of what we pay attention to.
Yeah, and it has a ripple effect. Correct, Claudia? Because she's the quantum physics girl. So if you have a question on that level, please, she is the person right there.
I have sometimes felt manipulated by someone who is showing their vulnerability. And so I'm not convinced that sharing vulnerability isn't sometimes a conflict that, can be, I don't know, that has felt like a conflict in itself.
That's a good point. I take your feelings seriously. If you feel like this is a way to manipulate you, maybe it's not coming from the heart. Maybe that person is really using that vulnerability as a tool to manipulate you. I really don't know. I think it could be. Or she's not aware that she could be perceived like that. So maybe you can say, I have a hard time with that. I feel manipulated. I don't know how close you are. I mean, but all I can say, take your feelings seriously. If you feel manipulated, that's how you feel. And you must have reasons for that.
Something that might tie into that is that it seems like the basis of conflict is when people have different needs. And so there might be a need that's being expressed by that manipulation, that vulnerability. You know, I'm being vulnerable, but I need this. And so manipulation, to me, implies that you want something from someone. And so, but my other larger question is, how do you proceed when two people have two different needs that are really opposed, like one wants to be alone and one wants to be together?
Yeah, you know, sometimes we just have to accept that it is like that. Actually, I had a whole blurb. I wanted to do an exercise with you on differences, because I think the underlying, or maybe the underlying main source of conflicts is our differences. If we could make a distill out of like misunderstanding, expectation, old unresolved issues from our childhood, what would come out at the end would be our differences. And that can be differences in upbringing, differences in needs, differences in communication styles, in experience.
Or is there kind of a polite way to ask, you know, a better way to ask for what you need rather than a way that's more like a demand?
You know, what you can say is, oh, you know what, I notice you need to be alone, and I would actually like to do something with you right now. Can you tell me when you're ready? When maybe that, you know, that alone time might not be that long. Keep it open. It means acknowledging your need, but also acknowledging the other person's need. Because the main mistake that we make with our differences is we make each other wrong for being different. And I don't know where that comes from. But I think our first instinct is to make each other wrong.
Sometimes I find if someone is adversarial, if I can kind of focus on what their fears are, it softens the whole process.
We are also saying that you put your need a little bit in the background, and you're actually turning fully to that person and try to have empathy with that person and be with that person. And that opens the door for maybe later you can bring your need out there as well. Is that what you're saying?
It's being fully present, so I don't just see their anger or their defensiveness, but I also see their fear. And in that way, it feels like it's a very authentic way of being with someone. And that doesn't mean that my needs are secondary. It just means I realize that their issue is about their issue and my issue is about my issue. That makes sense.
In Alcoholics Anonymous, in their big book, on page 449, it talks about something that's helped me a long, long time. In this situation with my son, I've expressed my need to be closer to him, and he doesn't have that same need that I do. So I'm using that as an example. But the big book says, if I have a problem, it's because I don't accept reality and what's going on. So I accept that he doesn't have the same need that I do. It doesn't mean I have to like it, but I need to accept it. Otherwise, I just get stuck in the story, and I have no sense of serenity. Yeah. So if I lose my acceptance and I don't like what somebody else is doing, and I want to, oh, you better do something different, then I lose my serenity. And then I've lost a great big thing.
Yeah, you know, our differences actually they're good. Imagine everybody would be like you. What a boring world, you know? Our differences also get us out of our comfort zones. They make us learn something new. And I would like, actually, I want to end this talk with a quote by Dave Murray. And he says, a great, I think a great relationship is when an imperfect couple learns to appreciate their differences. So I would like to end my talk with this quote.